here we are doing. Oh god, no, it added more. Oh, no, 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 no. Uh, can I reset? How do I reset, please? So, hello everyone. Um, since I'm basically a cash grab, I have no views, and I decided to say, hey, I might as well try this format that is really popular for some reason. Thank you, Dubs. And well, I was kind of inspired by some videos, maybe like No Fuckers, listing Russian leaders, and I thought, let's do the same with Italian leaders. And of course, I had to choose the ones that were really important in history and the ones that actually ran how the politics of Italy go. First kings were quite important in deciding politics. I was rather going to the presidents of the Chamber of Ministers, which is basically the Prime Minister of Italy, even though it's not the same thing as Prime Minister. It's a bit complicated, but I guess you can understand what I mean. It covers the same position, but it's relatively different. It doesn't have as much power as a Prime Minister. Italy is not known to be very stable, and this means that we had quite a lot of leaders elected. Let's say that we could make a Super Smash Bros out of this. So let's start. First, we have Mr. Thick Boy, Mr. Camillo Benso Conte di Cavour, or Count of Cavour. He was the first Prime Minister of Italy and the last Prime Minister of the Kingdom of Piedmont and Savoy. Of the Kingdom of Savoy, which was Sardinia, Piedmont. It really involved early Italy into the international politics and built a really big net of diplomatic relations with major powers within Europe, attracting the support of powers like France, Russia, and the UK, and participating in the war for Crimea. Overall, he is quite renowned as a politician, and he shaped how Prime Minister would be during the monarchy, at least until 1914. Overall, I'd say that this Thick Boy deserved to be S tier. I know it wasn't the best, and maybe not everyone will agree with me, but he surely did a good job. Then we have Mr. Ricasoli. He's not that well known as Cavour. However, what is known that he was the one that completed the first part of the unification of Italy. He was the one to basically declare war on the Pope when the French retreated due to the French-Prussian War, and if I can recall correctly, saved the face of Italy after the death of Cavour, because many leaders in Europe didn't trust Italy, as they don't trust it today. However, they trusted Cavour. He created a name for himself, and he was able to try to kind of rebuild that net, even though not with that much success. And already the fact that he is not well known kind of bring him to a much lower tier. I wouldn't say E or F. I'm used to 1 to 10 as a vote system, but for what I know, I say to have 7 position, so C is still sufficient, or at least it's the bare minimum. I'd say that he gets a C. But I'm reading here on Wikipedia that he created the Chianti, so yeah. Then we have Mr. Urbano Rattazzi. I'll put you here for now because I heard your name. Mr. Farini, I'm sorry, you as well are one of the many that didn't have a long cabinet, to be honest. Now, Mr. Marco Minghetti, you're not new, and you are one of the few that had more than one cabinet in succession. Let me revise a bit what you did. I don't remember now why Mr. Minghetti is quite important. He basically was the one that started the first, the initial Triple Alliance, which was the faction that will lead that Italy will abandon in 1914. It was comprised by Austria, the newly formed Germany, and Italy. Then in 1914-15, Italy abandoned it to join the Entente, and will be later, and the third place will be later taken by the Ottoman Empire. Overall, he was the one to lead Italy to be more allied with Germany. However, the problem was that, if I can recall correctly, his relations kind of cut off the Italian market from the French one, and the problem was that both the Italian and the French one were really interconnected. So I say that he did enough to be reserved a spot in the good / decent tier. Remember, this is not bad tier. This is, I have no idea who you are. Neither I have a collection of information regarding you. So if any of you knows these leaders, and say, don't feel offended. I'm not saying they're bad. I'm saying they're good. I have no idea who they are. Marmora, and the Marmora is for what I call quite a controversial character. Where is it? It is. Look at his mustache, and he's quite a cool dude. I will let you hear for now because I need a second to revise on you. La Marmora, for what I could see, was more of a military leader than a political one. He basically was the one, again, that supported the take of Rome, and was sent on a diplomatic mission to France and Prussia. This bit of history is a bit confusing as for continuity, because cabinet will fall quite easily and last not that long. This is because there was a really low trust towards Italy, and many were afraid that France, the France helped uniting Italy, they would also be able to destroy it, take it back to its original state of a lot of small state. Therefore, it was a really delicate period of time in which the nation wasn't that affirmed, and at the same time needed to find its place. I think, for what I can recall, he's quite an interesting character. For the role he brought in the unification, I would give him at least B tier. So guys, remember, to be a B for me, you have either to be quite important for a military event, or have invented some alcoholic beverage. It's weird because now that I check on it, after him there's again Mr. Ricasoli and then Mr. Attazzi. Yet again, Ricasoli did more and was remembered more. Attazzi was there. I can't find any information. Of course, I'm using Wikipedia. I could definitely use something better, but at this point, take back my book of history of international relationship of Italy, and that is much of many prime ministers seen this since a lot of them guided the diplomatic relations of Italy for history. Mr. Menabè is another mustache guy. Now I was reading a bit of it, and he basically started a law proceedment against Garibaldi, which was one of the leaders of the unification. And to be fair, it's something that you don't do. Why you don't do that? Because Garibaldi is quite beloved, both by the right and by the left. Everyone used Garibaldi as a reference because of his importance. If I'm not wrong, one of our current carrier ships, it's called after Garibaldi. Let me check if I'm true. Yes. It is so important that anytime you need a name, and you need an important name in Italy that will take supports both by right, by left, and center, and won't have anyone against, if not independentist, is Garibaldi. And you don't touch Garibaldi. Sorry. You could have gone against the French for the take of Rome, but you don't go against Garibaldi, my dude. You don't do that. Okay, we have now Mr. Lanza. Mr. Lanza, for me, it's, I'd say, on S tier, because he, in 1871, if I'm correct, was the only government that brought a positive balance to Italy. Before and after that, never a government was able to bring to positive balance Italy. So I think that this, even for this capacity of his, this incredible feat, it basically is an Herculean hero. He deserves a spot in the S tier. My boy, look at his beard, doesn't it give power away? If I'm not wrong, the British was the one that basically started the system of political chameleon, I don't know how you call it in English, but basically he was the one that started the changing of he supported the change of ideology of politicians, if such changes were meant changing party to achieve your goals. The British is another one of the controversial figures, exactly for the reason I told you earlier. And yes, he was the one that basically made it, created the philosophy of chameleontism, which is basically changing your ideology. If your party, if your ideology needs it. He was Minister of Navy exactly during the Third War of Independence, and he was the one that basically led and gave orders to the Navy, and during the Third Independence War. Actually, it was quite a disaster. We lost most of our ships, our officers had no lead, and basically they did not know what to do. He had to resign, and he was the one to actually sign the alliance with the Tripole Alliance, to sign the Tripole Alliance, the first one. Searching for support against France. However, I never know if the Tripole Alliance was better for Italy, because let's say that relations with Austro-Hungary were never good, have never been good, and the only nation that were good within this alliance were with Germany. However, Germany was not interested in what Italy was doing. They were interested in opposing France and making sure to have a secure border against Russia. So I don't know, I think it does indeed deserve the seat here in which I parked him. Mr. Cairoli is quite a weird figure. He, well, so far all of these leaders fought during the Second Independence Wars that were quite important for Italy. All of them had a role. Either fought as soldiers, fought as officers, or supported it politically. Therefore, every one of them was quite idealistic towards the idea that Italy was to remain united, and Italy had to find its place within the world. Mr. Cairoli, however, was the first one to give a bad name and to be recognized as, let's say, the why he trusted the French in not expanding in Northern Africa, kept working on the protectorate of Tunisia due to the already present population of Italians in Tunisia, and however he did not expect the French to actually attack Tunisia and take it as their own protectorate. Yes, one would think that Italy and France have good relations, but historically Italy and France didn't go that well together, and if you follow the news, neither they do today. I love my French people. I know some French people, and I have no problems with that. But historically, Italy and France are not good neighbors. So I don't think it's terrible. However, it didn't do a good job. It's not recognized as someone who did a good job, and therefore I'm afraid that the D tier is for him. Now, I was thinking on Medaboy, I think I will put it on E tier instead of F, because F is for someone else that we'll see in the future. After the preface, we see the arrival of Mr. Crispy, and here we have another interesting figure. He was quite supportive in the idea of Italo-German alliance, if I'm not wrong, and was one of the greatest promoters of the Triple Alliance. Let me check on the time period, because he is another one of those that had more than one cabinet. Crispy is another weird figure. He is the one that basically kickstarted the Italian colonialism within Eritrea and Somalia. And on the time period, he is also the one that basically had the various authorization during the Council Reunion of Germany, during the Conference of Berlin in 1881, if I'm wrong, for which Italy was able to cut its own colonies within Africa, alongside France, the UK, Germany, Portugal and Belgium, and Spain, because Morocco, anyway, was a Spanish colony for a bit. He also, as I said already, pushed for an alliance with Germany, and he sought for a more nationalistic point of view. He also raised the question of Albania. Italy always saw Albania as a point of interest, since it would assure a more an higher control over the Adriatic Sea. Therefore, he raised the question for which if Italy should actually be the one defending, and therefore turn Albania into an Italian protectorate. Also, by the power of the mustache, I'd say that he is raised to be here. I'd say that it's hard. It's definitely not a D. He did a lot to empower Italy. However, he also started some factor that later, in the later decades, will lead to various atrocities. I'd say that for standard of what kind of power he gave to Italy, turning into the smallest of big powers and the biggest of small powers, I'd say that he deserved a B tier, in which we see that powerful mustaches are a rule. You need to have done something interesting, like creating the Chianti and have mustache to be. Now, we should follow with Mr. Starabba, Antonio Starabba, and he deserves a spot within the "Even Are You" tier, because it's not the most well known. You usually study some of these figures, and therefore you remember their names at least. But him, I didn't even know the name. I was reading now on Wikipedia for what it did, and it didn't left that much of a footnote in history. So yeah, who even are you, dear achieved? Welcome to the club of the forgotten. It is now the turn of Mr. Giolitti, another controversial figure within Italian politics. He was the one basically to kickstart what is a lot of process. He basically kickstarted a good part of the industrializations of Italy in the northern part. It kind of addressed the problem of the difference between the north and the south. However, it did this mostly through political adventures. It never did this actually through actual actions. And I remember that every time I go and reach his period of history, he's regarded as both a man of the people and a traitor of the people, especially in the south. So let's revise on him. Well, Mr. Giolitti, just like Mr. De Pretis, was quite the transformist. He as well followed his idea, and I think that it would be easy to put it in the same place as let's say Renzi. It will come to him as well, as in he did a lot, but mostly to try and get support by everyone, and he gets more hate for it, a lot of hate for it. However, he lasted a really long time and kind of opposed Mussolini, if I'm not wrong, because it kind of he was in charge before Mussolini. I will have to, yes, he was in fact in charge before Mussolini. However, this means that through all his cabinets, he did a good enough job to be re-elected quite a lot of times, and we already passed the point in history in which vote was at least suffragette, how do you say, in which the vote was the suffrage of the vote was extended to men, to the men's. However, it was still based on income. This meant that only a certain kind of population with a certain income could vote. However, if I'm not wrong, it was the one to lower said income. I don't think he deserved all the hate. At the same time, he served alongside Umberto I and Vittorio Emanuele III, and which were the kings. Vittorio Emanuele III will be the one that will lead Italy in World War II, while Umberto I or Umberto I, while he did a lot through his career for Italy, at the same time he wasn't that much loved, since he was quite prone of using violence against protesters, and I'm quite sure that the Fasci di Combattimento, or well, basically the original fascist party, was used against protests one or more times. I say that he deserved more than the seat here. So, while I'm not really sure, I think I will put him in B. He's a controversial figure, and he spots a quite interesting mustache. Mr. Peru Luigi Pelù was a prime minister set on the in the cabinet during a period of martial law, because basically you have to think the period between 1890 to 1920 as a really unstable period for Italy, mostly because of various attempts of revolutions. And Peru was the minister that he was quite sanguinary as well, and all he did was think to work alongside Umberto I, to oppress these revolutions and protests. He's not known for his diplomacy, but rather for his internal politics, and it didn't last that long, so I think that he will as well take a knee here. However, it did achieve another, let's say, conquest for Italian colonialism with a small port, the port of basically he obtained the first foothold within China, in the port of Tianjin, and that's mostly what it did, or at least that's what I can find. So I think that the here it is. While Tittoni is mostly well known as the Minister for International Relationship of Giolitti, he also was Prime Minister for a while. However, he didn't do much, really. Let's say that as Prime Minister, I think he deserved the spot, the Forgotten Club. I mean, I personally can't recall much of him. We then end Mr. Fortis. He as well should go here, pretty sure. I was now checking the wiki because I couldn't remember him. I do remember that he was after Giolitti, and no, more rather than Giolitti, Mr. Tittoni. But he as well isn't that much remembered by history. The only thing I found was that he acknowledged more the problem between the difference between the north and the south of Italy, but that's it. That's all I could find. Not much. It is now the turn for Mr. Sonnino. And Mr. Sonnino is definitely either it's from Dion, because he deserved recognition through history. Mr. Sonnino is known for his support of the universal vote, which already makes him a bit here. He worked a lot to fix a balance. He didn't properly brought it to a positive state, but at least our debt was reduced quite a lot, and he was supportive. While I'm not that fond of saying Italy should have indeed took part in World War I as it did, I'm not even fond to say Italy should have not participated in it. It would have been brought in it anyway. he supported the Italy taking part in the war, but on the side of the Tribal Alliance. And this kind of make him a bit more stable. He was as well liberal left, even though it was more conservative. Remember that at this time, left and right were hardly a concept in all of Europe, since left and right were hard to identify as more conservative or not. Let's say that they remained under more the definition of conservative, liberal, conservative or liberal, most economically. I'd say that already for its support of universal vote, it deserves an A tier. The cut of taxes bring him near to the top, but I don't know. I think that World War One it's already quite divisive. So let's not count it in. You are the first to achieve. Luigi Luttazzi is a name that is not new to me. However, what he did is something quite unknown to me. So I'm afraid that I will have to leave him here. I just know that he was supportive of Italy taking part in World War One, but on the side of the Entente. Now, Mr. Sananda. Mr. Sananda, it's an interesting figure. Mr. Sananda will be the Prime Minister that leads Italy in World War One, and one of those that also, if I'm not wrong, will lead Italy to the conquest of Libya from the Ottoman Empire, which is something that, historically speaking, I'm always confused by, because the Ottomans were ready to conceive the creation of an independent state in Libya and make it a protectorate of Italy already. But our government decided to attack Libya instead, and the rest of the European power were supportive because they wanted Italy to join their side. So I really don't know. Sananda is controversial because of the fact that the Italian government wasn't following that much the army during the war, and that didn't give enough support. Also, the fact that Giolitti was the one that led the war in Libya. So I think that he loses points. I'm sorry, Mr. Giolitti. Because there could have been the protectorate of Libya despite a bloody war that was the Libyan war. We won. We were the first nation to use airplanes to recognition, if I'm not wrong. But it was not a necessary war, I feel. Giolitti, you lose a point. While Antonio Sananda, I have to choose where you are. Yes, Sananda, I think that he goes in D tier, since he entered the war not that greatly. We have then Mr. Boselli, and you go directly here because your government lasted between 1916 and the Austrian-Hungarian offensive in 1917. So it's hardly studied. I'm sorry. Then Vittorio Emanuele Orlando. He was the leader that brought Italy from 1917 to 1990, and therefore I'm afraid I would have to put you here. And I will explain this. Yes, it is a government that gave military execution to Armando Diaz as a general, and also that won the war. But at the same time, it was the government that, when that in at the peace of at the Treaty of Versailles, was unstable. This thanks also to the President of the United States that decided to do a tour in Italy, basically spouting a group of a number of statesmen that basically made the government really unstable and called for new election. This led to the diplomats from Italy to Versailles to not participate to the Treaty of Versailles, while the one left were completely unable to achieve any of the request or to push enough. We had what we requested, and so his government survived the war, but not democracy. It's so weird, really. I don't know. I want to put it higher because it didn't do really bad stuff, but at the same time, it does not deserve sufficiency. So yeah. Also, Giolitti gains back some points because his international policy until 1921, after the First World War, will be to achieve those things that we did not achieve through Versailles. I have no recollection, I swear, other than it looks like the dad from that movie with Danny DeVito, and at the first glance I don't know why it reminded me of Guy Fieri. I have no recollection of what it did. Let me check that. It was the one in 1920 before Giolitti, and it took his part in gaining what was not able to be gained diplomatically. I put him back in C tier for this. At the same time, it's totally forgotten by history. I'm really sorry for him. I really hope that somebody will. I have to read a book of many of these figures because I need to revise them. Yes, we're talking about more than 1 century ago at this point, but I really want to revise on all these people. Will I have to divide this? Well, let's do like that. We reach at least the end of the monarchy, and then we'll do another video with the Republic. We now have Mr. Bonomi, again another Weavenario, but reading about it, was one of the two governors in 1921, if I'm not wrong, with Facta, the free governor, 21, because after that there will be Giolitti, that will be then deposed in 1922, and I'm really sorry to put Bonomi again in the even are you tier, because he did a lot of social reforms that modern day fascists claim that were done by Mussolini. And I really want to put him around B just for that. You know what? I will put him in B. I don't like extremes. I don't like fascists. I don't like Nazis. I don't like communists. So that make him the commies. But anyway, I will put him in B just to piss off some people. We have now Mr. Fuck. I didn't save the photo. Here it is, the picture. Mr. Fuck. Already by the mustache, as you can see, the powerful mustache consists for history. I put you in B here, but I have no idea where are you. I know it sounds so ignorant, but there are so many governments, even in 1 year. I have no idea how I should be able to follow them all. Let me check with it. Okay. Fact didn't do much. It was just put in. And when Mussolini tried to march in Rome, he basically called for martial law and to actually resist the fascists. However, the king called back the army and deposed him. So I'm really sorry to put him in Who Even Are You, but history again does not remember him, and this might be sad. Like, especially now that we live in a democracy, the opposition through ideas that tend to lead to a society in which a vote is not allowed. I think that it should be studied a bit more as a figure, at least for what it did, at least I remember it is called out when it was happening, but it's never called. In fact, for fairness, I should put him as well here, but I did actually study the period, and I will keep it here. And then we come to the man, the legend, Mr. Bold. I know everything, I will fix everything. Oh god, I really shouldn't make any jokes, because otherwise his nephew and his niece will try and sue my ass. But F tier, and I will explain why. What I hear to say is always, yes, he did join World War II, he did join Hitler, but that was where his only errors. If it wasn't for that, it would be good. He also did. It was not worth what it did. The only they keep crediting him for laws regarding workers and stuff, but most of his stuff was actually done in 1920, before he came to power. He just made it more of a spectacle of doing it. He basically redid the same stuff and made it more spectacular. The same with the train were in time. It was not true. It appears that it was. It appears that it was all propaganda. His ideas of expansion through World War II were firstly unreal, totally unachievable, especially with Italy and the state it was. He joined the war despite not being ready, because he wanted to have a few dozen corpses so that he could sit to the table of peace. He destroyed every relation that Italy could have with other powers. He started a war in Ethiopia that, while I could condone for the historical period, did not achieve anything but higher cost to keep 500,000 troops far away. He put in power his friends just to be safe, to have support, and these friends were incapable. He put on commanders and kept commanders that were not capable of their job, as we see in Northern Africa, where Italian troops were stationed with continuous order to attack Egypt, when in Egypt the only British contingency was of about 10,000 men. We had 500,000 from Ethiopia, and if I'm not wrong, another 100,000 in Libya ready to attack. But the commanders were not sure what to do, and therefore they kept asking for resources instead of attacking. And the actual attack happened when Rommel was in charge of the Italian army in Northern Africa, supported by the German army. He attacked Greece just because he wanted as well something to take over, but send the troop basically send troops with few resources and claiming it would be an easy victory, not even thinking of the idea that an army that is not as strong as an invader one will surely go in guerrilla warfare. He sent troops to Russia, a war that we could completely avoid. We were not even at war with the USSR. We could have avoided that, but he sent troops to Russia. He let his son-in-law do everything, and that led to us to signing a pact that even he didn't want. We annexed Albania. It was already our protectorate, and it was in a personal union with the Kingdom of Italy was a personal union with the Kingdom of Albania. And he did that because of reasons, because he wanted to show that he as well could take over territory like Hitler took over Czechoslovakia. And this, it really baffles me that people look at it and say, oh, it was a good leader. I can understand people that lived under his rule. They were my grandparents were born and raised when he was in power from 1920 to 1943. I can understand that those people that were born and raised, that were every day bombarded with the idea that he was the perfect leader, that everyone should have followed him, and that the only ideology applicable was his, kept thinking of him as a good leader. I can understand that. I do not understand whether people that were born after that have seen that yes, a less stable society, but at the same time a more wealthy one. If Italy was after the fascism, I couldn't make this kind of videos. I do not understand it. I personally don't. I can see the interest in a more authoritarian government. I as well, when I was a teenager, was interested in that. I saw why, but I cannot understand people of my age, maybe or older. Maybe desperation. When you're desperate, you sought anything that can make your position a bit better. And in recent year, economy did not help us. But there are so many arguments against Mussolini. I can't understand why there are still people that revere him as a good leader. He was not a good leader, not even under an authoritarian point of view. Not even if I was to agree with racism. He was not a good leader. He was not effective. He was not capable. The only good thing that I give to him is the war on mafia. But I feel that it was more of a war between mafia itself, because he put on his mobsters, and just like with mafia, you are safe until you follow what the people that are threatening you at the same time are telling you. So I don't see the point. Of course, he will be also be in the presidential tier list if I ever do one, because he was the leader of the Republic of Salon, the puppet government alleged by the Third Reich in Northern Italy after the surrender in 1943 and the Kingdom of Italy joining the Allies in 1943 as well. We're nearly to the end, at least the monarchy. We now reach another beloved figure, Badoglio. Badoglio, fascist of the first hour and super democratic supporter of the Allies as soon as he sees an escape. Yeah, I don't like him. I do not like him. Badoglio, it didn't do much. It was mostly his ministers that do a lot of stuff, that did stuff. He basically wanted to be, he was the next leader of the fascist party, but then he was disbanded. He was the new prime minister. He did everything that the king wanted, but was able to achieve some objective. Example is Italy not being divided after World War II. This basically putting the US and the UK against the USSR, because the US and the UK were freeing Italy by themselves and weren't parting it with the USSR. The USSR wanted peace. Italy basically sent diplomatics to meet with the leaders of the USSR, with the diplomats from the USSR, Molotov, it was still Molotov, and basically achieved nothing but Italy being able to take back control of his own state and joining the Allies instead of being occupied and not having a government and then being divided. So it's, I don't know, I really don't like him. He was also a general in World War One and was part of that group of generals that basically sent men to die without reason, without tactic reasoning. I know it was quite common for the age, but also was one of those. For how he dealt with the Allied occupation, I'd say it should be a D. But the fact that he changed position, even like, just snapped his fingers and say, "Nope, I'm not a fascist anymore. Never said to be a fascist. What do you mean? Never been a friend of Mussolini." And I don't know, it's... Dante says that there's a special place in hell for people like this, so I guess that he should be in F as well, but at least he avoided. But I'm not even sure he deserves his spot. You know what? Go enjoy your friend. Just stay there. From World War II on and on, history is a really delicate thing, and we have now Mr. Bonomi. Bonomi, we are going towards the end of the monarchy. He was prime minister from 1944 to 1945, so the end of the war. And you know what? I may have been wrong about Badoglio. He did indeed deserve the F position. Yeah, it was actually Bonomi, the one that did all of that stuff, and he supported the various social laws that were passed in the 20s. He joined anti-fascist movement before the war. If I'm not wrong, he even left Italy during fascism. Therefore, at least he knew on what side he was, and knew on what side he didn't want to be. Yeah, if he withdrew from politics in 1920. So, yeah, here it is. Power is quite important because it's one of the figures that also created the current constitution, and he didn't left much of a footnote in history. However, for his position as a constitutionalist, I'd say that B is his position. And last but not least, in the monarchy class, we have Mr. De Gasperi. Mr. Gasperi is from Tyrol. He was a firm believer of the Union. He was an Italian, you know, to speak German, Italian, French, and English, if I'm not wrong. He is one of the founding fathers of the EU, and while many see the EU as sand in their eyes, we have to admit that not the European Union, but rather the ECC, the European Organization for Carbon and Iron. I use the Italian acronym, not the English one. But anyway, the first pan-European institution between Germany, Italy, France, Luxembourg, Netherlands, and Belgium, is one of the longest governing prime ministers that Italy had. He had 8 mandates, and he sorted out the South Tyrol situation, basically signing a treaty with Austria, for which South Tyrol would remain in Italy, but Italy would allow South Tyrol to be much more independent than other regions. He signed treaties with Yugoslavia for what was regarding the situation of Trieste. I don't know how you pronounce it in English. Basically established the modern border with our Balkanic neighbors, and it basically established Italy as the smallest of big powers and the biggest of small powers, giving it back what was his relevancy internationally speaking. Not only that, he was the last Prime Minister of the Kingdom of Italy and the first Prime Minister of the Republic. So, with all these achievements, I'd say that the only place it's with the greats is the straight S for me. And with this, we have all the Prime Ministers of the Kingdom of Italy. Next time, we'll go back and see the presidents of the Council of Ministers of the Republic of Italy. So from 1946 to modern day, hoping that my current government stays up. So I hope you enjoyed this weird take, this revised for me on the history of my country. I hope you learned something, and at the same time I hope you gain the interest to go and search for yourself for more regarding these figures. Of course, my source are both the last 3 years of university and a fast revise on Wikipedia. I tell to you, do not use Wikipedia. Go on Wikipedia to search for the books in which these figures are cited and read from them if possible, or search for other more relevant sources. I'd like to make videos regarding these figures, maybe short ones. Everyone his own videos, but it will be a long series then. Well, I hope you enjoyed, and see you next time.